Thank you very much for inviting me to this exciting seminar today. I understand that we are coming from very different paths of Europe and also from different paths of the healthcare sector. So I'm really looking forward to spend the day with you here. So as Tim mentioned, I work for the European Commission, has done so for the last 16 years. And I work for the department that deals with the European research funding, and in particular in the area of personalized medicine, which in fact encompasses a wide variety of different aspects. And I will talk a little bit about them today. So I will describe a little bit about sort of what we feel about personalized medicine, a little bit about what we do, what type of research we're funding, and also a little bit about the future. But I only have 15 minutes, so it will be kind of a supersonic odyssey about the different things we do. So why are we so interested in personalized medicine? Well, we see there are a lot of challenges in healthcare today. It's today estimated that about 90% of the common drugs actually only work in 40% of the patient. And the very recent figure actually is from this week, and has been a program in the Swedish radio saying that 30% of acute hospital admissions are due to adverse drug reactions, which is quite scary if you think about it. The aging population and the increased healthcare costs. Another figure that has come this week is that the number of medicines an elderly person is taking has doubled over the last 20 years, and that the person who is around 80 today takes on average 10 medicines. And you can imagine where this is going to go in the future if we're going to double in the coming 20 years and that so many more of us are going to live so much longer. The healthcare costs are going to be unsustainable, and we really need to think about how to use resources more efficiently. In addition, of course, we all know that it's very costly and very time-dependent to develop new therapies, and therefore we really need to rethink also how we work in the drug development process. So we really think that personalized medicine is one of the avenues that we really should pursue for the future. So I talked about challenges, but of course we also have a lot of opportunities. And many of these opportunities we actually come following the sequencing of the human genome and the following avalanche, we would say, of different omics that comes from there. And also, of course, we are still collecting a lot of data, and there's still a lot of very basic research going on, but we're also learning more and more how to translate that into new diagnostic means and also, of course, to treatments. And we're going to learn a lot more about that today. And what we believe is that it's going to bring us a completely new picture of how we see disease in the future. So we believe that we're probably going to move from the clinical definition of disease to a molecular definition of disease. And in the extension, it's a bit frightening maybe, but you can think about maybe we will reach a molecular definition of health. So I'm talking about personalized medicine, and in fact we have been searching for quite a number of years for a real definition of personalized medicine, and we haven't found one. So therefore we have sort of put together one that is the context that we in the European Commission operate under. And we use that, the definition such as it's a medical model using molecular profiling techniques for tailoring the right therapeutic strategy for the right person at the right time and or determine the predisposition to disease and or to deliver timely and stratified prevention. That means that we are putting together the knowledge that we already have together with all the new profiling techniques to much better stratify patients and to identify what kind of treatment or prevention would suit them best. So what do we believe could be advantages of this new era, if we may call it like that? Well, first, of course, an ability to make much better medical decisions, better prediction of outcomes, reduced probability of negative side effects, also to try to focus much more on prevention and prediction of disease rather than the reaction to it when it already has broken out. And of course also we are hoping that it also could contribute to the healthcare cost containment. So far, it has been very, very little work done in that area to prove the economic viability of personalized medicine, but there has recently been 2 publications, and I have put one of them there, which is called Unlocking the Value of Personalized Healthcare in Europe, and it's a study, an economic modeling that is done for breast cancer stratification. It is based on real data from Belgium and the UK, and we're hoping that we will see a lot more of those in the future. So we talk about personalized medicine, and for us as a research funder, it's of course important to look at the whole picture, because traditionally we have invested a lot of research in sort of the basic research, the omics, technology development, and also in clinical trials, etc. But there's no point for us to go down and do these investments unless you have the whole healthcare sector prepared for also take up the results of these investments. So we have developed this kind of overview of the different steps in the innovation cycle as we see that, and tried to identify the different challenges in each one of them, and trying to see with our colleagues in other parts of Europe and in the European Commission to see how can we actually look at each one of them and try to reduce those challenges and bottlenecks to create sort of a flow path for new innovation to actually reach the patients as fast as possible. So over the last years, we have, as Tim mentioned, organized a number of different workshops in trying to identify these challenges. We also had a big conference with some 500 people, also trying to discuss sort of what do we really need to do in Europe to sort of break through in all these different areas. The outcome of this conference is summarized in a booklet that looks like this. It's available on our website. I have a few copies with me for those who would like to have it. And of course, I have a very short period to talk today, a very short time, so I will summarize it very quickly into one slide. So we grouped them into 4 different paths. And I think what I really like with the meeting today, it also brings together the different operators from the different paths, because we cannot work in silos. We need to work together, all of us, to make this happen. So the first challenge is the breaking barriers, speaking the same language. We need to work, and I've invented a new word, not multidisciplinary, but cross-disciplinary, disciplinarity. A lot more in education and training to come through with new findings out also into the healthcare system as quickly as possible. Second area would be generating knowledge and developing the right tools. We need to work a lot more on standards, clinical bioinformatics and adaptations of research tools to be used in the clinic. Third one is translating knowledge to medical applications, and one of the big areas that we see coming is a lot of work on disease taxonomy. As I mentioned before, the redrawing or the map of diseases based on the molecular pathways, etc. Biomarker validation, clinical trials, in particular clinical trial methodologies for small populations. And last but not least, understanding the economic impact. Healthcare pilots, HTA, comparative effectiveness, and value chain studies are areas that we feel really needs to be done. I know this is very compact, but I'm happy to explain more about them sort of after the session here in lunch breaks, etc. So quickly moving on into sort of who we are and what we do where I work. So we are managing the European Health Research Program that funds collaborative research. The program that we're currently operating under is called Framework Program 7. It has a budget of 6.1 billion euro for a 7-year period, and it seems like a lot of money, but actually it's about 6% of the total research funding available in Europe. But what's different with what we do is that we are focusing on the research collaborations. And we're funding a wide variety of projects, so we will find anything from small projects that are driven by SMEs to demonstrate the validity of a new technology in a project of 3 partners, to large projects, which is more about data gathering, etc., and building standards, where you may have 30 partners, etc. So it depends very much on what the project tries to achieve. We have a big portfolio of a wide variety of small and large projects. So we made a little survey, sort of looking at the portfolio that we have, and we realized that in the period of projects we have funded from 2007 to 2011, we had invested more than €1 billion into research that is underpinning the development of personalized medicine. So what we have counted is, of course, research in the areas of the various omics technologies, technology development, diagnostics, biomarkers, preclinical and clinical research. Since 2011, we have probably invested about €500 million more into research that underpins, and we see that more and more goes into this area of this sort of underpinning research for personalized medicine. This is a snapshot of the type of projects we're funding. As I mentioned, the scale and scope is quite varied. And you also see some symbols in there, like IRDIRC, International Cancer Genome Consortium, etc. And I wanted to just mention a little bit more about those, because we believe this is something that is really going to provide a lot of basis for the future development of diagnosis and therapies. These large-scale international research initiatives doesn't mean that these are huge projects. It means that it's a cooperation among organizations who are providing research funding or are doing research themselves towards common objectives. And the philosophy of these large-scale international consortia is that we can, with very, very simple means, combine sort of and look at the output of all these research data in a much more open source manner. And I took as one example of those is what's called IRDIRC, the International Human Epigenome Consortia, where we are funding a big project called Blueprint, which is coordinated from not far from here, from Nijmegen. And this project aims to characterize 1,000 human epigenomes, and they have chosen, 100 human epigenome, and they have chosen to work on blood-based diseases. Another consortium that I wanted to mention, which is growing very fast, is something called the International Rare Diseases Research Consortium. And why do I mention this here? It is because we believe that rare diseases can also serve as a model for personalized medicine. This consortium has a very ambitious goal. It is to have 200 new therapies for rare diseases on the market in 2020 and to be able to diagnose most rare diseases by 2020. Very ambitious goals. But in less than a year, already 26 different organizations has come together to work on this. There are huge sequencing programs going on, in particular in Canada and the United States, also in China, although China hasn't joined yet. And there is a lot of investment going on in bringing orphan medicines out on the market. So this consortium brings together 26 committed partners from public and private sector, which is a novel philosophy here, that also small companies and large companies are starting to come in to commit to such objectives at an international level. And currently we have organizations from Europe, US, Canada, and Australia. So those of you who are interested can also ask me more in the lunch break, etc., or send me an email to see what we are doing. As this meeting is about targeted therapies, I also want to just show a snapshot of funding that goes into cancer research. And here you see it's about 1.1 billion euros on the same period, 2007 to 2011, that has gone into cancer research. Not all of that comes from the program that I'm coming from. It also goes into, as you see, training from something called Marie Curie Training Fellowships, and also frontier research, which is funded from the European Research Council. So it's quite an impressive investment as well, and you see that there is a whole variety of different types of objectives of those projects as well. Again, I just have time to show you sort of one example of the type of projects that we are investing in. This is a project called CancerDip. I must, of course, also mention the Innovative Medicines Initiative, which, for time being at least, is the largest public-private partnership in the world in the area of health research. The focus of this initiative is to develop new means for the prediction of safety and efficacy of new medicines. So the objective is not to develop new medicines as such, but is to provide much better tools that can be used in the drug development process, and those tools could then be used by everybody who works in the sector. Looking quickly at the future, the current program and budget we're working on finishes in 2013, and the European member states are currently negotiating a budget for the EU for the coming 7-year period starting 2014. Not such an easy discussion as you can imagine, considering the financial situation in Europe. So we will see what comes out in the end. The proposed budget for research is 80 billion euro, which would provide a significant increase from the current period. Unfortunately, the member states have said now that they would like to halve this budget, which is a bit surprising considering that growth and jobs is one of the priorities and very much should be based on research, that at the same time they agree on the political priorities, they want to cut sort of the legs upon which that growth would be based on. So there I have a plea for all of you to go and talk in your member states to the responsible and say, you know, look, is this really what you would like to do? Because it will have huge consequences. What we have seen at European level also is that we have seen a very high rise in the number of applications that we receive. We've always received a lot of applications, but it's even more nowadays. And we see this as a signal that research funding also has been decreased at member state level, which is not a very good sign at all. So I hope that you will help us to fight that cause and try to maintain as much research budget as we can in Europe. Fortunately, I would say, on our side, we have the European Parliament, who has said that they would actually like to give a veto in the whole European budget process unless the member states are changing their mind. So let's hope and see that things go well in the end. So what we had proposed to work on in the coming 7-year period, you will see there, and I've just highlighted 3 areas which I think is maybe the most interesting for you here and most interesting for personalized medicine or targeted therapies. So understanding disease, improving diagnosis and treating disease. So there will be quite a strong focus on personalized medicine because we do believe that that is one of the areas that we really need to go forward into. I guess that this is what all of you think, that it's too bureaucratic, which may be true. But you should also remember that these are European taxpayers' money, and the taxpayers also demand to know how that money is spent, etc., and that is what set the scenes for how the system is based. I think all of us would like to have it a lot simpler, but it's a compromise, I would say, about what's feasible and what are the sort of control needs that is asked for the European citizens. But, of course, we always strive to make things simpler. So there are a number of ways to make it simpler for you as sort of customers to this program, to have easier set of rules and much easier sort of how to you prepare the proposals, etc. And in particular to reduce the time from when you apply until the grant is there and you will get the money. We have also introduced some new tools over the last years. You see here something like the SBIR program that I think many of you are familiar with, which has been very successful in the US in supporting small companies to grow. And actually in the health area we have already implemented over the last 2 years quite successfully. We have a lot of application where you have small companies in the lead, very few partners to go forward on very specific ideas very rapidly, and we are planning to continue in that area. So I think my time is up. It was a very quick odyssey, and I'm sorry I didn't have time to go into details, but I will be here most of the day, so feel free to come up to me, and also you have my email address there, and you have a website there where you can find more information. So thank you for your attention.